Hello and thanks for tuning in, everyone. This is going to be a demo, kind of a mod review of the Syma X5C-1 quadcopter. Basically, I bought this around Christmas for my son. I actually bought the JJRC H8C quadcopter. You can find the video also on my channel for the H8C, but let's talk about the X5C-1 today. Now this is an upgraded version of this quadcopter, and it's a really smooth flyer. I really like it a lot. And what I'm going to be talking about today are some modifications I've done to it for my son, and also some upgrades I've done to it. First off is going to be this upgraded battery. It comes with a 500 mAh 3.7 volt battery, and I've got some notes here on how long these last in different flying conditions. So the stock battery will last you, now this is with the under certain conditions where the landing gear is removed, the camera is removed, and the camera door, and also the prop guards are removed. All these numbers are with all this stuff removed. I'd say probably actually lessen the flight time about a minute or two if you have all of these things installed on the quadcopter. So let's get back to the batteries. Basically, the stock battery is going to give you in outdoor winds of about 5 miles per hour variable winds, you're going to get about 7 minutes and 20 seconds of flight time. And these were my numbers, and this is what I got from a pretty hard flight with a few flips here and there and pretty much on the throttle constantly. Let's see, also, and this is actually also in mode 2, which is the 100% or the highest mode that this quadcopter has. And then I have some indoor numbers. The indoor numbers were actually about a minute longer duration of flight, so that would be 8 minutes and 20 seconds for indoor flight, and that's mostly because it doesn't have to fight any wind, and also you're not giving it full throttle, you know, for longer distances. You're more, you know, in a enclosed area and not doing as many tricks and not pushing it as much. So that's for the stock battery. Those numbers were for the stock battery. And let's move on to the upgraded battery. I'll have the links for this in the description of where to get this battery. The numbers on this upgraded battery were 11 minutes and 30 seconds. Now I don't know if you can see this, but this is a Turnigy Nanotech 750 mAh, same 1S 3.7 volt battery. This has a labeled higher discharge rate of between 35 and 70 C. I believe the stock battery, they don't list the discharge rate, but I believe it is around the 10 to 20 C rating, and that's just more of a current discharge rate. And on this quadcopter, I'm not sure if that really matters because I don't think you can really pull much more juice. I think the voltage regulator on the quadcopter doesn't allow much more juice to go to the motors through the circuit board here. The flight controller doesn't allow that. And you can't really tell because the battery is about a third heavier than the stock battery. So you can't really tell because it's compensating for the weight. So I couldn't really tell any performance increase with this battery as far as speed and you know, how fast the quadcopter would run. I did, however, notice that it did have an 11 minute and 30 second run time under the same outdoor conditions, and that's giving it, you know, full throttle everywhere, flying around, doing flips, going super sky high, going, you know, coming back down. for this upgraded battery. Indoor flight time was just a half a minute more at about 12 minutes, and of course, like I said before, that's because of you get a little bit more because you're not giving it full throttle the whole time you're indoors. You're kind of hovering and not doing as many flips and whatnot. I kind of have a higher ceiling, so I was able to do some flips inside the house and get a pretty good test on both of these batteries. So I'll have this battery in the description on where to get this. It's a really good battery, and if you want that longer flight time of, that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that's 4 more minutes of flight time just by putting this upgraded battery in. And I'm going to show you the actual thickness of the battery. It's basically 250 more mAh, depending on their quality control and if they're actually pretty accurate to their mAh, which I haven't really tested. They're pretty good batteries. I mean, the stock battery that comes with the X5C, I was actually pretty impressed for a stock battery. It actually, when I do charge it, it looks like it's charging up close to, it's 400 something mAh, probably 420 something, and so it's leaving that extra mAh as the low voltage cutoff so it doesn't damage the battery. So pretty good. I'll leave the links in the description for this upgraded battery, and I would actually recommend an aftermarket charger for all of your RC quadcopters and whatever you have RC and you're charging any kind of LiPo, nickel metal hydride, whatever kind of batteries you have. I bought this. I'll put the link in the description for where I bought it. Really cheap. It was like $20 to $30. Really small footprint, and it's one of those China special chargers, but it works really well. It gives you you can save certain charge specifications. If you have certain batteries and you want to go back to them every time, you don't want to keep changing things around, you can save like up to, I think it's something like 10 save states. It's got a max charge of 6 amps, max discharge of 1 amp. It does put your battery into storage. You can do a fast charge, you can do a like a discharge, like a cycle charge. It has all kinds of different features, and I'll put the link in the description of where I got this from. Really great little charger for super cheap. I would recommend this compared to using the stock chargers, because the stock chargers they're not worth anything. They'll just really ruin your batteries, especially if you start buying extra batteries. Those stock chargers are just no good. They're just gonna either overcharge your battery or eventually just mess them up. So I definitely invest 20 to 30 bucks in a great charger, and you can use it for all of your RC needs. Moving on, let's talk a little bit about the camera from the X5C. The camera is not bad, but it's not that great. I actually bought for myself for Christmas this guy. This is the JJRC H8C. I did a review on this on my channel as well. You can check that out. And the camera on the H8C is actually better than the X5C as far as I can see, a little bit better. The resolution on the X5C is it seems a little bit more blurry. I've tried to do something where you can actually take this apart and turn the lens to try and focus it, as I've seen in other videos people have done, and I just could not get it to move, even while putting some alcohol to actually loosen the glue around the camera to focus it. I didn't have luck with that, so I'm just going to kind of give this a mediocre camera review on this camera. And when you purchase this, the camera actually comes at a pretty downward angle. It's facing more downward like this. This is actually the battery door here, and the camera will, when you get it stock, it'll point more down at an angle like this. And it's kind of tough because most people want to kind of see more forward video when it's pointing down, and then you're actually moving the quadcopter forward. You're getting too much of a down orientation. So what I've done is just take a few segments of double-sided sticky tape and just kind of stick it on the back of the camera. Just build up the back a little bit to bring that camera into like a horizontal position from the battery door. And then I stuck one piece on the front just to kind of secure it so it doesn't rattle around and give it any kind of jello effect. And it worked pretty good. This one I'll put some video up on the X5C video samples, and so you guys can see how it takes video if you haven't seen already. Anyway, that's the camera, and here's the landing gear. This is really light landing gear. It just pushes right into the bottom of the craft, and it actually flies a lot better and quicker without any of this stuff. Here's also the prop guards. You're going to want to leave these on probably inside, or if you're just starting to fly. Once you get better, you can take these off, and these they're a pretty good amount of weight for this small quadcopter, and you'll really notice the difference once you take these off and the landing gear off. You still have these little motor feet that actually do really well at keeping the quad off the ground if you don't have the camera on. If you have the camera on, you're going to, here, I'll do this, I'll set this up for you real quick so you can see how it looks. If you have the camera on, let's put it on here. You can see how with the camera on, it's just too low for it to land on these motor feet. So I'd only recommend taking off the landing gear if you're not using the camera. Anyway, let me take this back off. The way you can take off the camera and the case together, just like the H8C that I showed you before, is just pushing the case all the way back, rotating one side up, and then pushing down to the side that's wedged, and then the top just pops out and you can take the whole door and camera off. And I'd recommend, if you don't need the camera, just fly around with your landing gear off. If you're getting pretty good, take all this prop guards off, and it will really increase your flight time and the maneuverability of the craft. I'll show you really quick how this aftermarket battery fits in. It's kind of the best one I've found. There's some threads on it and there's some info on it on the internet, and it really fits in nice and tight. It's kind of the biggest you really want to go, because with this quadcopter, the stock connector still needs to plug in directly horizontal to the battery, and if you get anything larger, you're going to be blocking that connector. So I think there's a battery out there that doesn't come with this JST connector, but the only one I could find comes with this JST connector. So I just tuck it in. I think it's probably only a gram or so of extra weight, but I just tuck it in. I didn't want to cut it off just in case I wanted to use that connector for another quadcopter or another RC device. And then you just take your your connector and stick it in right there. And I think it's definitely safe to fly with the battery door off with this, because there's really no way this battery can come out. It's really, you've got to really push it in there to get it in, and it really wedges itself in really well. And also when you do push in the connector here to the bottom, it kind of creates a stopper for the battery, so you'll never really lose your battery in any kind of situation. Even if you crash, I brought it down a few times and this thing just won't come out, so you should be safe. Anyway, something that's happened to me is actually my son, he lost one of these little light guards here. No big deal, you can't really tell from the air, it just looks kind of funny, and I think you can order them online if you lose them. Okay, let's talk about the controller, and then we'll talk about a few of the observations I've had since we've been flying this thing for about 20 20-something flights. So here's the controller it comes with. This is the stock controller. It's a pretty darn good controller for, you know, a little quad like this. This antenna here is an aftermarket antenna. The antenna it comes with is just this little dummy antenna shootout here that actually only goes up to about this far, and it's just a little stub. With the stock antenna, we were only getting really about maybe like 150 feet of range, really bad range. I think that's kind of the downfall of this X5C, is it's really bad range. And so we took this thing apart, and we found that the antenna was just super small. It wasn't orientated very well. And I had read in some forums that you can actually just take old wireless router 2.4 gigahertz antenna and solder it in and put it in place. So the way I did that was opened up the router, took out the antenna with the antenna wire, unsoldered it from the router it was in, opened this thing up, attached, unsoldered the stock antenna, and then just basically copied how the stock antenna was soldered with this antenna. You've got to strip the end of the antenna and solder it to 2 points on the board in the same exact place, and then put this in. Now this antenna was a little loose when we put this back together. It was a little shaky and a little loose, and the way I solved that was just putting a circular insert of double sticky sided tape, and it worked really well. Before we put it back together, we just basically put it back together, and this antenna just like, it smushed around the antenna and it held it really well. So with this mod, with the antenna mod, we're actually getting, my son and I are getting about, I'd say 300 to 400 feet. It's not quite as good as the JJRC H8C quadcopter that I described in another one of my videos, but it's pretty darn good for this, the Syma X5C. You really don't want to go too much farther than about 400 feet, 350 to 400 feet, because you really can't see it at that point. Okay, so anyway, I might make another video on how to actually do this mod for this controller, and I'll post it up on my channel so you all can kind of follow through and walk through on how to do it. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about some of my observations on this Syma X5C. First off, it's going to be you really don't want to fly this in more than 5-mile-per-hour winds to really be confident in flying it. Once you get over that, the wind really takes it quick and you might get in trouble. It does have 2 rates of flight. You've got like a beginner rate and a more advanced rate, but the more advanced rate and the lower voltage that it has doesn't really give you enough power to really get out of scary situations that the wind can get you in. So I really wouldn't fly it over about 5-mile-per-hour variable for good control. You can go maybe up to 10 miles per hour, but you have to be a better pilot at that point and really know what you're doing. Secondly, once the low voltage lights start blinking, once it starts running out of power and they start blinking on this, at least on this one we have, it just comes down right away, and it'll just fall to the ground and won't have any control. So I'd really recommend getting a timer and you know, figure out time how long your battery lasts when you're flying it in your normal conditions, and then start a timer either on your cell phone, like an alarm timer or something, while you're flying, just so when it reaches close to that time, you can bring it down and it can be low on next to the ground for when it does hit that low voltage and is out of control and lands. And that's about it. Great little quadcopter. I'd really recommend it for durability. It's very durable. You shouldn't have any electrical issues with it. I have had some motor failures with JJRC H8C quadcopter. Now this is a 7.4 volts, so it's got about twice the voltage, and it was designed with motors that really can't handle long-term that type of voltage. So that's why I was having some motor failures. So if you're just beginning with quadcopters, I'd really recommend something like this. There's a few other iterations of the Syma X5C in different branding around the net. Very durable. We haven't lost a motor yet from 20 plus flights. Very stable. When you're flying, you can trim it and it'll hover. It hovers at one of the best quadcopters I've seen hover. And it does flips. It does forward, backwards, left and right flips. Very controllable, very stable. When you put it in the high rate mode, it is pretty quick. If it's calm, it's a lot of fun. If it's a little bit windy, you're not going to have fun. It's just the wind's going to blow it away. So just so you guys have a little bit of heads up on what to expect. And anyway, that's the Syma X5C, and I hope you liked the video, and thanks for watching.